Menteri Pertahanan Inggris, John Healey, menyampaikan peringatan keras kepada Presiden Rusia, Vladimir Putin, menyebut bahwa Inggris melihat aktivitas Rusia, termasuk dugaan operasi submarin rahasia yang menghambat keterlibatan Inggris dalam konflik Timur Tengah. Healey menjelaskan bahwa meski ada ketegangan di kawasan tersebut, prioritas Inggris adalah mengatasi ancaman yang lebih tersembunyi, seperti ancaman terhadap kabel dan infrastruktur kritis.
This operation involved a Russian Akula-class attack submarine and a concurrent deployment of 2 specialist submarines from Ganggu. That's Russia's main directorate for deep-sea research. And last November, I outlined how these Ganggu units, including the spy ship Yantar, are vessels directed by President Putin to conduct hybrid warfare activities against the UK and our allies, specifically around critical undersea infrastructure. And for the first time today, we're releasing images of the Ganggu base and of these vessels. They're designed to survey underwater infrastructure during peacetime and sabotage it in conflict. In response to the Russian submarines, I can confirm that I deployed our armed forces to track and to deter any malign activity by these vessels. A Royal Navy warship and Royal Air Force P-8 aircraft, alongside allies, ensured that the Russian submarines were monitored 24/7. The Akula submarine subsequently retreated home, having been closely tracked throughout, and we continued to monitor the 2 Ganggu submarines in and around wider UK waters. Our armed forces left them in no doubt that they were being monitored, that their movements were not covert, as President Putin planned, and that their attempted secret operation had been exposed. Those Ganggu submarines have now left UK waters and headed back north. And this operation, which lasted more than a month, has now concluded. Our aircraft flew over 450 hours. Our frigate covered several thousand nautical miles, and 500 British personnel were involved in the response. And I'm making this statement to call out this Russian activity. And to President Putin, I say, we see you, we see your activity over our cables and our pipelines, and you should know that any attempt to damage them will not be tolerated and will have serious consequences. Our Strategic Defence Review confirms that the UK faces, and I quote, growing Russian aggression in all domains. And the High North is no less vital to our UK security today than it was when the current conflict erupted in the Middle East. Putin's covert operation failed because this government is delivering our first duty, protecting Britain. Our resolve to track, expose, and confront the Russian threat remains absolute. And that's why this year we're deploying our carrier group where it is most needed, the High North, and why we're leading NATO's new mission, Arctic Sentry. Let me finish where I began, with praise for the professionalism of our outstanding armed forces. They are truly the best of Britain. And when a crisis erupts noisily and dangerously, as it has done in the Middle East, I understand people questioning why all UK military assets and personnel have not been deployed to deal with it. But that is not in Britain's national interest. The greatest threats are often unseen and silent. And as demands on defence rise, we must deploy our resources to best effect. Those resources will rise in coming years because of our government's record defence investment. And so, as we act to defend our interests and our allies in the Middle East, we also step up to meet increasing threats in the High North, to strengthen NATO, to stand with Ukraine. And above all, we will always act on the first duty of any government, to protect our UK homeland and keep the British people safe, secure at home and strong abroad.
against us. You talk about how you're seeing them, but why didn't you stop them? Why didn't you shoo them off the critical infrastructure? And then just finally, obviously we're seeing the Russia threat. There's conflict in the Middle East. There's war in Ukraine. There's Donald Trump mocking the UK's diminished military capabilities and threatening to withdraw the US from NATO. Yes.
Look, first, I'm pretty clear that Putin would want us to be distracted by the Middle East. And what I'm setting out today demonstrates that we are not just exposing his covert operation, but we are saying to him that we recognise Russia as the primary threat to the UK and to NATO, and that we will not take our eyes off Putin, whilst at the same time we act to protect our British interests and our British allies in the Middle East.
Working from the Sun newspaper, Defence Secretary, I think this is the second time you've told Putin that you see him. The last time was when you surfaced a submarine close to the Yantar. It doesn't appear to have deterred these submarine operations surveilling subsea infrastructure. And the concern is, of course, when he looks back in your direction, he might see a navy that has 5 of its 6 hunter-killer submarines stuck in port, and the other one was in Australia, has now sailed. A Type 45 destroyer that took 3 weeks to get to Cyprus in response to a foreseeable security emergency. What are you doing to make sure that you know, for all the credit you give the armed forces personnel, but to make sure that they have the resources, the infrastructure, the kit that they need to do more than simply watch? And I'd point out that the DIP, the Defence Investment Plan, this key document to set out what you're going to invest in, continues to be months behind schedule.
So first, I'd simply say to you, Putin's purpose is secret operations that remain undetected over our critical infrastructure. We've exposed those covert operations. We've made clear to him and his submarines that we've watched them every step of the way, and that were there to be any damage to our cables or pipelines, we would hold him responsible. And I think the nature of the operation that I've set out today demonstrates that we have UK armed forces capable of detecting, capable of deterring, capable of responding if required in order to protect Britain and to protect our vital undersea infrastructure. And that we have a government here and a military that, despite our commitments, quite rightly in the Middle East, will not take our eye off Putin, that recognises and responds to the fact that our primary threat to the UK and to NATO remains President Putin and Russia.
Thank you. I want to ask you about the Russian shadow fleet being escorted through the channel. Just to push you on that, is the government comfortable with the Russian Navy operating an escort service for these ships in the English Channel? And if not, what can the government do about it? You've already said you want to stop these sanctioned vessels, but they're still travelling past the UK every day. And if I may, the government's been clear that the ceasefire in the Middle East should extend to Lebanon. Are you now considering further arms export restrictions on Israel, given their attacks on Lebanon yesterday?
So on the first question, we're concentrating on what we can do alongside allies, and the Prime Minister is in the region this week discussing with Gulf countries how we and they might reinforce the strength of the ceasefire and might create the conditions in which the Strait of Hormuz could be reopened. On the question of the shadow ships, we've got a strong history as a country for sanctioning ships, individuals, and with allies we've seen two things in the last year. We've seen over 200 of the Russian sanctioned shadow fleet put out of action and forced to anchor, putting more pressure on Putin's ability to fund his illegal war in Ukraine. And we've seen the oil revenues that Russia takes from the illegal trade drop by a quarter. But there's more we can do, and as the Prime Minister has announced, we are ready, we have the military options, and we're ready to take action, not just in support of, but action with allies to interdict shadow fleet vessels. And I would just suggest to you, if the action we've already taken, the action that the Prime Minister has indicated we're ready to take in addition, is making Russia reroute its shadow ships, as it has, or escort its shadow ships with its own warships, then the stance, the military posture, the determined work that we've done, particularly with Jeff allied nations, is having an impact and making it harder for Putin to pursue his illegal oil revenues, coordinate and run his shadow fleet, and fund his illegal war in Ukraine. And we aim, with others, to put more pressure in the coming weeks and months on that activity.
Yesterday, Donald Trump said that NATO was not there when we needed them and won't be there again. Can I get your response to that? And are you concerned about the future of the alliance? Thank you.
First, I'm really not going to comment on social media posts. What I can reflect on are the conversations that I've had with his Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, both one-to-one and when I sit next to him at NATO defence ministers. He's clear about the US that they remain totally committed to NATO and to Article 5, but equally strong in requiring European NATO nations like the UK to step up on Ukraine, which we have, to step up on defence spending, which we have and we are, and step up also on European leadership within NATO. And that's in many ways exactly what we're doing with this operation. We're demonstrating and dealing with allies threats to NATO's northern flank and reinforcing the deterrence and the defence of our NATO alliance with this operation, where the threats are greatest, which is from Russia and in the high north.
President Trump has mocked the British Navy, calling them toys and old and decrepit. I wonder if you think this operation is a sort of response to that, and what do you think the members of the British Armed Forces would want you to say to President Trump about that assessment by him? And if I might, on Iran, what do you and the government think of the president's proposal, if you want to call it that, for a kind of joint U.S.-Iran toll booth in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we want to see the ceasefire reinforced and strengthened. We want to see it extended to Israel and Lebanon. And we want to see a Strait of Hormuz that remains open and free, consistent with the long-established laws of international navigation without any sort of tolls for passage. On your first set of questions, I'd like to let our actions rather than our words speak for themselves. And I would just say about our carrier, I reject the descriptions that have been leveled against them.
Jelajahi cara baru mendapatkan informasi. Download MetroTV Extend sekarang.